What's up guys? I'm Amanda, the Botanical Brunette, and welcome to my channel. So you guys probably see this gorgeous Gloriosum, like my absolute favorite plant. I love this plant so much. It was my #1 wishlist plant, actually my first wishlist plant. But in this video, I have a little bit of a confession to make. I really didn't want to do this video. I really didn't want to basically show you guys like my mistakes, but that is how we learn. Really, I mean, honestly, that's it. Like, that's how we learn. I feel like with a lot of people who are in the public eye, like on YouTube or influencers on Instagram and stuff like that, you know, we all kind of know that their lives aren't always what it seems. I show on my Instagram these beautiful, healthy houseplants, but I kill plants too. Like, I kill plants. I'm sure all of these like houseplant influencers also kill houseplants. It happens. It is part of being a plant parent. It's part of the whole thing. It's just that sometimes you'll make a mistake and you'll just have to kind of rewind and learn from your mistakes. In this case, I have to learn from a huge mistake that I made while I was air layering. So I'm gonna get into basically that. I'll get into the story of basically what has happened with my Gloriosum and the process that I'm kind of getting it back into shape. I'm also doing 3 types of propagation with this Gloriosum, kind of like as an experiment. I'm kind of wanting to see like how this goes. It's not 100% a fair experiment with propagation. Like I did a couple of, I think like last year I did a like a soil, moss, perlite, and water propagation experiment with like an insonii cutting. And that's going to be a little different because that started out with like 1 node, 1 leaf cutting in the same conditions kind of thing, where you'll see, I mean, like there's some that are, you know, like you'll just see. You'll see. So let's just get into it. I'm going to tell you the story about what happened. And if I have any videos, I usually pull like stories or like stuff from my archives through Instagram, so you'll see like videos pop up here and there if I can find them. If not, they might just not be anything because I just did not want to show my shame. But I really just, like I said, I just want to do this video just to kind of like shine a light on like that, you know, even though it may look like, you know, everybody's like perfect and stuff, we're still human, we still make mistakes, and this happens, and we need to normalize like being normal. I mean, like I feel like I have to say, like, we just like have to like not shame each other. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna get people in the comment section telling me like what a horrible plant parent I am because I made a mistake with my Gloriosum. But you know what? That's how we learn. I'm here to kind of basically shed a light on normalizing normal houseplants, and also basically just showing you guys like that it's okay to make mistakes and we learn from mistakes. So with that being said, again, let's get into it. Let me start off by telling you the story about what happened to my Gloriosum. Where do I begin? So my Gloriosum I got back in 2021. My Gloriosum was beautiful. It was like a, I think like 2 to 3 leaf plant that I got for like $150. It was stupid expensive, but I got it and I was absolutely in love. But it was my first crawling plant that I ever had. Crawling plants are basically plants that will crawl across the soil versus like going up like on a trellis or anything like that. And I kind of learned the hard way of how to take care of a plant that crawls. Basically what I did is I kept seeing on Instagram and stuff here and there, like pictures that I would Google of like Philodendron Gloriosums in round pots. So I was like, oh, well, you can just keep it in a round pot. I thought eventually like the stem could like wrap around like a spiral maybe eventually, but like I thought it would like wrap around in the pot, and I guess you could train it that way, but I don't even want to suggest that because of the nightmare that I've gone through. So basically what happened was I put it in a 10-inch pot when I first got it, and very quickly it outgrew that pot. It started to grow outside of the pot. It kind of grew like over the lip of the pot. And it took me a long time. Now again, you guys might be like rolling your eyes at me, but I'm being realistic. I was trying to find like a trough planter that was gonna fit my aesthetic. Now I could go out and buy like a trough planter at like Walmart, but I wanted to find something that was like white or something that I could paint that was going to be big enough. And also trellis planters, I don't know if you know this, but they're really expensive. Like if you're trying to find like a nice looking one, they're expensive. So I wound up getting a window box planter and just kind of making it into a trough planter. I don't know, everybody tells me that Gloriosums are like the slowest growers, but this plant for me has been super fast. Like it grows like a weed, and I can't vouch for people who say that it grows slow. I mean, maybe it's plant by plant, or maybe it's environment. I keep my Gloriosum in a southeast facing window, but like kind of away from the window. So it sits like about, I would say like 3 to 4 feet from the window. So it gets like really good bright morning light, like almost direct light in the morning. And then it gets like really bright, good light, no sunlight shining through the window in like afternoon, mid-afternoon. And then around like 3 o'clock, it's just kind of like medium light. So it's really happy where that, you know, it's happy where it is in that spot. So basically after I had a successful air layer, I was like, you know what? Like, let me air layer my Gloriosum. Reason why I wanted to air layer it is because due to it kind of creeping out and over the pot, it began to kind of have this hump on the stem. When I put it in the trough planter, because it didn't have any soil to climb onto, it didn't have any roots. So when I put it in the trough planter, it was so like bottom heavy. It didn't have that like lip on the planter that it could just hug. It was now like wobbly and kind of weird. I tried to like mound up soil in the middle to kind of get that to stay. Guys, I literally tried everything. I tried stakes, like putting up like wooden stakes, trying to like make sure, like keep the plant stable. So hopefully like the plant would develop roots. It just was not rooting. It wasn't doing anything. And it was months that it was just falling over and whatever. So like, you know what? I got a really good couple plants that I successfully air layered. Let's air layer my Gloriosum. So I air layered it. I put the, you guys probably saw in my plant chores video, my recent plant chores video. If you haven't, I'll link it up here. In my plant chores video, you see me air layering my Gloriosum, or at least checking on the roots. And it started to develop really good roots. It really did. It had like really good roots starting, and I was like really excited for that. So basically it started to develop really good root system. So what I did was I took the air layering off. It had about 2-inch roots, 2-inch long roots, and it was still attached to the mother plant. So what I thought was, oh, it would be a good idea to just like dig in the soil and plant those roots in. Roots were starting to take into the soil. So I got confident and I'm like, okay, it's starting to root into the soil. We're attached to the mother plant. I got kind of antsy, and I just, because the stem that I was attached to was like a 1-foot stem that had no leaves on it. It was like the original part of the stem, and the leaves just kind of died off. Some of the leaves when I first got the Gloriosum were kind of just like dinged up, like damaged. It must have been in like it must have gotten into like an import, and it had like that import looking leaves. It had like yellowing around the edges and just not pretty, and they eventually just wound up kind of dying off. So I had like a 1-foot long stem that had nothing on it. So I'm like, well, if I can get the roots to really root, I can cut the stem off, detach it from the mother plant, and then move that up to the top so that it has way more room to crawl. At least like half of the trough planter it would have to grow. which was another foot. So I'm like, okay, this will at least get me to like next year. I cut the mother plant off. I cut that big stem off, and it terrified me to do it. It took me probably 25 minutes talking to myself, just do it. Oh, don't do it. Just do it. Don't do it. It's not ready. And then I eventually just was like, just do it. So I cut it off, and I planted the plant in soil, and then it rotted. I don't know what happened. It was in the same soil as it always has been in. I don't know if just the roots were just not ready to be, like, sometimes for me, when I have a plant that I have rooted in really any medium, it's a little bit easier transition when you do like perlite or moss to soil. But like when you do water, it's like a hard transition into soil because it's just so used to all that moisture. And that's kind of how it was. Like it kind of acted like a water propagation because it, like, the roots started to just dry out really bad. And then I watered it, and then the roots got rotted. Basically what happened. I got really upset. I kind of was off of social media for a while. I got really just kind of mad at myself. I was beating myself up over it. And that's another point that I want to make, is just like, don't beat yourself up over something like that. Like, it's not like I have the last Gloriosum on earth. Like, I can go and get another one. And also, I always try to be optimistic, and I always try to be like, okay, let's take a 5-minute break, come back, and let's figure this out. Let's save this plant. And it almost gives you more of a rewarding kind of like feeling when you can save a plant. So that's what I'm doing now. Back in April is when I cut it up, so late April. So it's been propagating for about a month. I have a water propagation, which is this one. Unfortunately, this guy is in some water. I'll see if I can tilt it down so you guys can see. So I have it in some water in there. You can see, ooh, I just spilled it. But you guys get the idea. It's like a half a foot, like a 6-inch piece. It's actually in the Urban Outfitters self-watering planter. It's actually in the self-watering jar. It's the only thing that would fit it. And I'm like, I don't have anything in that planter yet. So I was like, well, we'll just use the jar and we'll propagate it. So I actually had 2 6-inch cuttings. So I had 4 leaves total that were in water. 2 of those just did not make it. It just, like, the leaves look like yellowed, and it just did not make it. But I did save it. I did save the chunk. So I have it in here. I actually wrote the date. So 4/27 is when he went in here. So I have not looked at this at all. This has been in here since the 27th. I really haven't peeked or anything in here, but I have a big long chunk in there. So I'm gonna open this for the first time since I put it in here so you guys can see what is going on, or if it's rotted. It could be rotted. I have no idea, but we're gonna see what's going on. So, and already I can see new growth. Okay. Guys. All right, so here is this chunk. So we have a little guy growing out, and then we have another one right here, but no roots. The chunk still feels really firm. It's still really hard, which is good. That's a good sign. But guys, like, I could potentially have another Gloriosum like plant. So that's really exciting. I am like really excited to watch that grow. This is actually the first time I've ever used like a Ziploc bag with moss. I've always been told to like, you know, basically let the plant grow out of the moss, but I'm like, I'm gonna try to like make a little like a humidity dome thing out of a Ziploc bag. And I am just over the moon that that is actually like growing. I just cannot wait. I can't wait. So this was the chunk that was in here originally with these 2 leaves that just didn't make it. I cut the leaves off and I'm like, okay, let me try with moss and put it in a baggie and let me see how that goes. Basically what I did for the moss is I pre-moistened moss with water and a little bit of Super Thrive. Just put it in a baggie, and then what I do is I just put it in. Let me flip the bag so it's not the label. So I just put the chunk in, and then I kind of like bury it a little bit, kind of loosely bury it. So I'll show you kind of like this way. So it's under some moss, but I loosely like bury it. You still want it to be kind of out. You don't want to rot the chunk. You want to just make sure that it's not fully buried in there. And then I was told that you should blow air into the into the Ziploc. I don't know, guys. This is just what I've been doing, or what I did. So blow it up. And now we have that. I'm really excited for that. Ugh. And also with any of these, I'm going to give you guys updates on what they're doing and kind of just let you guys know the whole process. And we're going to go through this together. Like, again, I didn't want to make this video, but I thought it would be a good learning experience and also like a good like reminder that even if you have a plant that's dying, you're still a good plant parent. All right, and then this, so this guy, I debated. I was like, I don't know the roots. So the root system on the original plant, this is actually the original plant. The root system on this thing was amazing. Like perfect roots, perfect, like perfect creamy colored roots, no rot. Super happy, super beautiful, and I almost threw it out. I almost threw it out. I was like, almost like, you know what? I don't want to deal with it. And I just thought, you know what? Let's just plant it. I had this planter that was actually my tetrasperma was in, and it outgrew it, so I repotted it. And I was like, I don't know what else to put in this planter, like whatever. So I put this Gloriosum chunk, and you guys, can you see that little guy right here? Oh my goodness. And then we have 2 of them. We have 2, and then I actually just saw when I was pulling this out that I actually have 3 of them. I'm gonna actually push this down into the soil a little bit more, because again, like, it's rooted, but it's just, so I have a 3rd one right here. Okay, you guys can see that? Cute little, so little. But then we have this one right here. It's growing really well. And then this one right here, whoop, right here, is probably going to have a leaf soon. It's starting to look like it's like an unfurling leaf, where the other 2 are just kind of still little nubs. That is in soil. I keep it in my garage, which actually gets super warm and super humid, so I think it loves that. It's actually it's in a northeast window, so it gets like really bright morning light, and it actually stays pretty bright in my garage like all day long. So it's pretty good for it, I think. I mean, I've grown a couple plants in my garage Also, like when I have my laundry in my garage too, so like when I run the dryer, it gets super humid in there, like hot and humid. And I'm sure my plants are loving it. Like any of the plants that I have in my garage that I rehab or like are full of pests are like, yes, it's so nice in here. And they come in my cold, dry house. Of course, I saw the soil propagation. I've been watching it kind of here and there, but the moss propagation, like when you saw it, I first saw it, like it's still kind of buried in moss, so like I didn't see where that was. And then we have this water propagation, which is the most important, I think, because it has the leaves on it. It has the big leaves. So I'm going to take this out so we can see. I actually have something to show you guys. So I have 2 little roots growing right here, and then I have a little nub growing right there. So I'm really hopeful that this is going to root really well. I also have like, I'm thinking that there might be, those were kind of rotted but not rotted roots. But I've had in the past like plants that I'll treat the root rot and then it will wind up rooting off of the rotted root. It just, the root looks rotted. I did cut the tips of both of them just to make sure that there wasn't rot completely through it. And it actually looks pretty good in the middle. So I'm just gonna keep an eye on those. But with this propagation, again, I've had it in there since the 27th of April, so about a month, and I've only had that little tiny root growing. I have that one little nub that's growing on it too, so I'm staying hopeful. I'm staying hopeful that that will grow and that will get really rooted. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to keep this in water for a very long time. And probably the one in moss for a while. The one in soil is already rooted. It already has a great root system already, so that just needs to grow some good leaves and we're good there. I basically kept the one that I took the 2 leaves off of, the one in moss, as an insurance policy, because I'm like, if this one dies, then maybe I can get some roots and something off of that. Who knows? But I always do that with my plants that are like kind of dying. I'll take like a cutting or something like that, and it'll be like my insurance policy, just to like regrow the plant so I don't have to buy another one. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to buy a new one. So for the water propagation, I change it out probably every 3 to 5 days. I kind of change the water out. I kind of keep an eye on it. It does get a little cloudy every once in a while, and about once a month, so I've only done it once. But I'm gonna start once a month doing one change of the water will have a little bit of Super Thrive in it, so it will kind of maintain that like not transplant shock. That stuff is like magical with like transplant shock. So I'm really excited to see like what happens with that. I mean, this is just kind of like an experiment. I was super like bummed. I was really upset. Like I even confessed to my husband that I'm like killing my Gloriosum, but I mean, he like looked at me and he's like, I know you'll be able to like revive it. You're a really good plant parent. So he kind of made me feel better with that. Yeah, it's just like, like I said, I just want to kind of be transparent with you guys, and I want to show you guys like another side to plant parenthood. It's not always beautiful leaves and new growth. There is also like root rot and pests and stuff like that. And most of the time, it's not really your fault. I mean, like, I feel like, yeah, the plant dried out, and then when I watered it, it root rotted because I overwatered it. I kind of compensated for that. That is my fault directly, but it's something that I'm going to learn in the future, is to just, be careful and be mindful of that. So don't beat yourself up over it, over like stuff like that happens. It happens. But I'm gonna keep you guys updated. I'm going to do like a series and like kind of let you guys know how my Gloriosum is doing. Also, again, if you follow me on Instagram. I will be starting to show this more. I wanted to do this video before I kind of announced on Instagram that my Gloriosum is in rehab right now. This is actually really like teaching me like how to grow new plants from chunks. Like I haven't really had experience with that like too much. So this is actually really giving me a good like learning experience to, you know, do that and like what different ways I can basically learn. Right now I'm also learning how to grow like alocasias from corms. I eventually will do a video on that too, just to kind of show you like my process. But I wanted to make sure I'm like semi-successful before I start doing that. Like I wanted to make sure at least like the water propagation had a root on it before I showed it off. Of course, I really didn't like, I mean, it's amazing that it's growing something, but I wasn't really, you know, I was not really sure about the one in moss, but that's actually like making me kind of think like maybe that should be in moss. But we'll keep it in water for now and just kind of see. Let me know in the comments. Let's confess to each other. I confess to you guys. Tell me one plant confession that you have done lately and let's talk about it. Let's air out our dirty laundry in the comment section. So that's it for today. I hope you guys all have a great day and stay botanical.